Hi, my name's Ryan.
My name is Vivian, and we are going to talk about a celebrated piece of literature, Balzac and the Little Chinese Seamstress by Dai Sijie.
The story is about two boys who have to survive in a dark time in Chinese history, the Cultural Revolution. This was a time where books were burned and ultimately knowledge destroyed. For many years, Mao's Little Red Book was the only source of knowledge available. The sciences were abandoned, agriculture and industry were adopted. So what does the author say about the theme in such a sensitive time?
The loss of knowledge means the loss of identity, is what we believe the author of the book is trying to express. The match spluttered. It was almost snuffed out in its own black smoke, then flared up again as it approached Pir Gurot. The book was lying on the ground with the others in front of the house. When the main character decides to burn his books after the little seamstress leaves, he is not angry at the books or the little seamstress, but of the characters which come from the books. The characters inspired the little seamstress to search for a better life, to ultimately leave Phoenix Mountain to find success in the big city. Since the little seamstress found knowledge in the book as well as from the characters within the book, she was able to find her identity and realize that she needed to leave the mountain. This is explained in the quote, "It was totally a new experience for me. Before, I had no idea that you can take on a role of someone completely of a different person." Therefore, the main character is trying to erase the knowledge of the character that caused the departure of the little seamstress. In a way, the main character is erasing the memories, but unfortunately erased a bit of his identity. This gives the ending a feeling of sadness and hopelessness, the same feelings when the main characters first arrive at Phoenix Mountain.
The theme, the loss of knowledge means the loss of identity, is shown throughout the book in many ways, and one of the most prevalent is not giving the characters proper names. For example, the main character, the little seamstress or the tailor, do not have names but are referred to by their title. The reasoning behind this decision lies in the setting that is China in the Cultural Revolution. People are considered more as a group, as part of a state rather than individuals. As described in the book, towards the end of 1968, the Green Helmsman of China's revolution, Chairman Mao, launched a campaign that would leave the country profoundly altered. All the young intellectuals were sent to the countryside to be re-educated by the peasants. In this quote, the people are considered more as a single group, intellectuals. Since the loss of knowledge means the loss of identity, the common person will most likely follow a strong leader, which Chairman Mao actively takes advantage of.
The plot of the story, the setting, and conflict all revolve around the Cultural Revolution, about how society is trying to take away a person's access to knowledge, locking a person's freedom of thought. The plot is about the main character and Luo's quest for knowledge. The chronological and social setting stands in the way of the character's pursuit of knowledge, which forms the overall conflict of the story. On the surface, the conflict is mainly person versus person and person versus environment, as the main character and Luo have to physically survive in the Phoenix Mountains. For example, when Luo contracted malaria from working in a copper mine, the other villagers decided to beat the disease out of him. He hauled Luo to his feet, stripped him of his jacket and other clothing, and started whipping his bare back with the two branches. From the lack of knowledge, none of the villagers have their own identity and needs to follow a leader, and therefore nobody spoke up against the action. As the story progresses, it is clear that the main conflict is person versus society and person versus self. Using the example, when the main character burns his book, he is conflicted inside with society, but does not want to face it head-on and hides from the conflict. He becomes weak as a result of the loss of knowledge and identity.
With the theory of the characters not having proper names, there is one exception though. Why is Luo the only character in the book that has a name? What makes Luo special? Referring back to the theme, the loss of knowledge means the loss of identity, the author uses metonymy to show Luo is intelligent by substituting a title with his actual name. Unlike the other characters, Luo is a storyteller and is one of the most cultured person in the story. In the letter, it is stated Luo is a teller of films, which shows that Luo is really experienced at telling stories. Luo, in essence, already has that developed identity and is able to break free from the title that he is given.
Throughout the year, we have read Lenses and Mirror Image that best connects with the theme of Balzac and the Little Seamstress. The two stories all share a common theme, identity. In Mirror Image, Alice, the main character, wakes up to find herself in a different body. Her identity is put at the ultimate test. As a result of a physical event, Alice questions her own identity as her previous knowledge of her body no longer applies. For example, Alice dislikes the cake her mother baked for her because her taste buds have changed from her previous body. Therefore, the loss of knowledge results in the loss of identity.
In the story lenses, the main character, Corinne, is faced with the dilemma of performing surgery on Groucho's eyes and replace them with super-enhanced mechanical eyes. William Shakespeare once said that the eyes are the window to a person's soul, and this applies perfectly to the story. Towards the end of the story, Corinne ends up performing the surgery, and the final result is that Groucho's eyes look lifeless, mechanical. Is Groucho still herself? Has her identity changed? Similar to Balzac and Little Seamstress, Corinne lost something about herself that caused her to question her identity. It may not necessarily have to be knowledge, but she did sacrifice something about herself to move forward in life, to conform to society. In a way, the loss of something a part of you results in the loss of identity.
As a student, we struggle with the identity every day as we are in a state of constant change. We put ourselves in doing temporary jobs that we never thought of doing, which results the loss of identity. We are trying to find ourselves, learning, trying new things, experimenting. We are told that we should pursue knowledge, and with knowledge, we gain the ability to think for ourselves, to form our identity. Many survivors of the residential schools are not as lucky as us and have lost their identity. Their language and culture is taken away from them at a very young age. They are also separated from their parents, which prevented them to speak their mother tongue language. The loss of indigenous knowledge would be forever erased from them. They would question themselves of who they are. Who really am I when I can't speak the language and don't know any of the culture? Who do I speak to? Who will accept me? Today, we live in a time where authority and technology are feeding us false information. So think for yourself. Pursue knowledge and you will find your identity. For a loss of knowledge means a loss of identity.